Hey y'all, welcome back to Exile Wargaming, where today and as always, we're going to be talking about Harlequins. More specifically, a little bit of speculation into what our new detachment may look like. Now, GW recently revealed they will be bringing in 8 new detachments for the Aeldari, and quite a few things are changing. So what I want to talk about today are a few of the implications of the new Codex. What are we going to do with no more fate dice? Battle focus, maybe some possible detachment rules, especially for Harlequin specifically. Some of the units that will be specifically impacted by this, maybe some options for enhancements, and the all important stratagems. Now, losing fate dice and unparalleled foresight mean a lot to us. Mainly, it completely changes the data sheets on some of our units. Troop masters specifically lose their ability to sub in fate dice. Skyweavers and void weavers lose a lot of lethality. So do things with fusion pistols. It also takes away from our ability to engage wherever we want by being able to utilize a fate dice in order to guarantee specific charges. We've been using a lot of the core Aeldari rules to kind of supplement some flavor in Harlequins and recreate some success that we used to be capable of. But with these changes, it seems like we may be kind of flipped on our heads. Now, battle focus seems to be the army rule that is going to replace fate dice or unparalleled foresight. And for us as Harlequin players, it seems not that impactful. Most of our troops, which are the backbone of everything we do, have a 12-inch range with shuriken pistols and neuro pistols and a 6-inch range on our fusions. Battle focus just doesn't seem like it's going to carry as much weight as it would with a unit like Dire Avengers or Dark Reapers, something like that from the traditional Aeldari Codex. Also, not knowing how this is going to end up working out. Will it even apply to our Void Weavers, our Sky Weavers, our Star Weavers? Will Harlequins themselves get an entirely different army rule in order to kind of supplement this? There are a ton of questions surrounding this, and I really can't wait to kind of dig in. Now, I do want to let everyone know that this is 100% pure speculation, but my mind is running wild with the different things that they may be able to do or what's going to be on the horizon for us. Now, if we are forced to use battle focus as our army rule, that means our detachment rule has to be something incredibly impactful. Something like advance in charge, maybe something like Sky Splinter Assault, where our units are getting buffs, getting out of transports, or something similar. It could be charge bonuses like Sons of Sanguinius or enemy debuffs like the Death Guard. It could also be something like webway strikes. Harlequins are known to kind of ambush their opponents out of nowhere and then flee back into the webway unharmed afterwards. There are a lot of different things that GW could do thematically to make Harlequins competitive. If we just look into some other armies and rules and detachments that we've seen across the game so far, we can get ourselves a good idea on hopefully what to expect. Our goal right now, though, I guess the best thing we can possibly do is hope that we get the good Codex writer and that Harlequins aren't dumpstered even further than they already are. So I think one of the most important questions we have to ask is, will Harlequins units be faction locked specifically to just them? Or are we going to have access to traditional Aeldari or Ynnari units afterwards? Are we going to lose access to Falcons or Wave Serpents or Farseers, Avatars? Are we going to lose access to Yvraine, the Vizarch, or the Incarn? This could dramatically curb our ability to do damage or protect our units. We may lose fights first. We may use the ability to stage and damage up, trade up with our troops, troop masters getting out of Falcons, etc. So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. There are a lot of things up in the air. But I think one of the most important questions we can ask is, if it is only Harlequins, then how do we win? Let's approach this as a faction locked army itself and see what we can do from here. This is why I say there may be a huge shakeup. If you were using Yvrain as your warlord right now, you cannot bring the Avatar. You can't bring Phoenix Lords, Homunculus Covens, things like that already. So this whole faction lock notion is not something new. If we have a standalone army, though, we need to have access to more damage. Troop masters, lead players, the Death Jester, the Solitaire really have to make up for the difference. We can't just keep plodding along with strength 4, -1, 1 damage weapons throughout the entirety of, our time in 10th edition. We have to be able to do something a little bit more. The detachment rule must fundamentally change how Harlequins are played while not affecting their ability to be used as allies in something like traditional Aeldari or Drukhari or Ynnari. So almost every single one of our units is going to be impacted. We have the Troupe Master, a Shadowseer, a Death Jester, the Solitaire, our Troupe themselves, the Skyweavers, Voidweavers, and Starweavers. That is all we have access to. And that detachment rule is going to play a huge portion of our success. Now, the Troop Master alone is automatically going to lose an ability. It's going to lose its ability to manipulate fate dice. Right now, we can sub any fate dice in for a hit, wound, or save of a 1 or whatever it is and turn it into a 6. The Troop Master himself gives devastating wounds to his unit of troops, but without the ability to manipulate the fate dice, sneak through a couple extra damage, or guarantee a wound on a fusion pistol, he's going to need a little bit of a boost. Otherwise, this is just a 55-point lead player. So I really truly believe that the Troop Master needs access to a 2 damage weapon, or whether it's having it on his core profile or whether it's having an enhancement or something like that could confer that 2 damage to him. Maybe it's given to him in use of a stratagem or something like that. But the Troop Master himself has to have some form of 2 damage weapon, and I will assume that the devastating wounds that he can bring to a unit would carry over, especially if we're not allowed access to something like the Falcon, where we're re-rolling all of our wounds. The dev wounds aren't going to pile up that much if this is the path that they're taking. If he is given a 2 damage weapon, though, like anyone else, like any Space Marine captain or lieutenant, I can definitely see him having a possible points increase. Now, the Shadowseer right now is pretty irrelevant. I mean, she gives the unit stealth and allows them to advance in charge, but the problem being that most of the Harlequin troops aren't doing that much damage anyway, being that they only have -1 AP weapons, except for the lead player who gets -2. Everyone has something like Armor of Contempt or whatever it may be, and adding a 60-point model that could possibly deal 1 damage at a point in time just doesn't seem super beneficial. Like, if we're going to advance in charge across the board and expose our toughness 3, 4+, save space elves, we want to make sure that they're able to do something on the clapback. So either they have to entirely wipe out a unit or they're going to get wiped themselves. And I just don't see even a big brick of units gaining a whole bunch of benefit from the Solitaire or from the Shadowseer. So potentially I can see maybe her psychic ability changing instead of just giving stealth to a unit. There's a lot of different psychers in this game right now. The Shadowseer used to function a little bit more similarly to a Farseer, so the fact that she's getting abilities like a Warlock seems a little kind of ridiculous. So I'm hoping that they give her something, even if it's an ability to essentially put off an aura like Death Guard, to maybe debuff enemy units. Anything within 6 inches, they're all -1, to hit in combat or in shooting. Maybe it lowers the save of an opponent. Something like Death Guard themselves. Potentially, maybe a reactive move. When a unit gets within 9 inches or so, something with a Shadowseer can make that, 6-inch move afterwards, or just a standard, psychic ability to affect your opponent's ability to move or advance or charge into the unit specifically. This would be something that's on one of the Warlock units or conclaves right now. But overall, the Shadowseer needs a huge rework. The damage is unreliable. Her shooting is basically non-existent. The Neurodisruptor is not what it was in 9th edition, and there's nothing that you really want to put on her to boost her. As of right now in the Aeldari index, there's not a single detachment that makes sense to put on the Shadowseer either. So this is something that they really need to work on, but I'm hoping we can bring this model off the table pretty soon, or off the shelves. Now, one of the biggest toss-ups, speculators right now, is what's going to happen with the Death Jester. If we get a new detachment, or they create an entirely new detachment, we're going to lose Fate's Messenger. And at this point, the Death Jester is basically a 90-point lone op shuriken cannon that may be able to get lucky by rolling sustain 2 on a 6, but that doesn't seem very worth it for 90 points. Almost everything now has cover or access to Armor of Contempt. It's very, very difficult getting wounds through on this if we're not able to push through Devastating or just a huge volume of fire. So I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with the Death Jester now that Fate's Messenger is gone, but he's going to need something pretty dramatic in the realm of an enhancement or an ability or a very dramatic points decrease in order to see any play as he is right now. Now, thankfully, the Solitaire has always been pretty awesome. I don't see any major changes with the Solitaire at this point. It would be nice, after we've seen the Eversor Assassin, to possibly get the Solitaire some form of maybe sustained hits or lethal hits on top of it, just to make sure that they can kind of punch up whenever they need to. But overall, I don't see the Solitaire changing. I think that was a really balanced unit, points, everything. It's just pretty great. You use them the right way, and you can do pretty much anything. Now, the Harlequin Troupe themselves, if they're done right, will be able to carry this detachment. As they stand right now, they're pretty dang good. The +1 to wound on the charge is a fantastic ability. I think that's the thing that sets them apart from almost any other class or melee style unit in the Aeldari index right now. I believe the Harlequin Troupe are the absolute best. So I really hope that they don't change that +1 to charge. It really just lets them punch up and into anything without worrying about too much. But the fusion pistols losing unparalleled foresight makes them a good bit less reliable into all comers. In 9th edition, the fusion pistols were D6 +2 damage. In this edition, it's D3 +2. So being able to get that extra reroll and guarantee a wound allows them to kind of punch up into rhinos or tanks and just be kind of a catch-all-comers style unit. But without that extra reroll or fate dice to summon every once in a while, they are going to take a pretty big hit. So my thought behind this is, Harlequin troops are fine for 75 points. I don't see them going up or down in points when the new Codex comes out overall, but I do see them getting a significant buff or some way to buff them in the detachment ability. I would love to see, if they don't get a huge buff in the detachment ability, something like the lead player himself having access to at least a 2 damage weapon, or the ability to gain it through use of stratagem, whatever it may be. When we kind of put this in perspective, I don't think it's unreasonable at all. Assault intercessors are the exact same cost, 75 points with a power fist, 3 attacks, strength 8, -2, 2 damage. They get rerolls to wound on objectives. They have double the amount of wounds themselves, higher toughness, and a better standard save, as well as having access to grenades, and then they can have plasma pistols as well. So we're not asking for much in any way, shape, or form. Give Harlequin some form of 2 damage weapon, and I think you'll be able to see them a lot more successful without being absolutely broken anywhere else on the board. When we get into our Prospect Warriors. Howling Banshees have a 2 damage weapon in the Executioner. The Striking Scorpions have the Scorpion's Claw and the Biting Blade at 2 damage. This isn't something unrealistic. It's kind of wild to me right now that we already don't have it. They're basically being carried by the Troupe Master himself in the ability to dish out devastating wounds. But if they have to carry an entire faction, they're going to need that little bit more. Now, the Skyweavers, the Void Weavers, the Star Weavers all seem pretty well positioned right now. I'm not a huge fan of Void Weavers, but if they came down in points a little bit, I would be much more happy to take them in mass, because they're going to lose the ability, Unparalleled Foresight, where they can reroll a hit and reroll a wound. I can see both the Skyweavers and the Void Weavers coming down in points just a little bit. If we got Skyweavers back down to 95 points or so and the Void Weavers maybe down to 105 or 100, they'd be in pretty decent shape. We can field a ton of them and not worry about it right now. I have a feeling that these are going to come down in some capacity if the rules don't change, just because running a pure Harlequin detachment is pretty tough with how the points lay out. There's only so many units that we can field, and with the way the points are right now, it leaves for quite a few wonky lists that just don't make sense overall. You're left with something like 30 points or 20 points here and there, not enough to fill another unit. So I don't see the Weavers changing. I hope the Star Weavers keep the ability for the troops to get back in at the end of the fight phase. Venoms still have it for Drukhari, so I don't see that being a big issue. I don't think they want to shake up absolutely every data sheet out here, and these being the core of our army, I think we'll go a bit unscathed. So overall, most of the units don't need a big change. We just need a useful ability for the Shadowseer. The Troupe Master has to replace the ability to manipulate Fate Dice. And the Death Jester needs some form of enhancement or ability rework to make sure that he's worth the points and does Death Jester-like things. He should be able to start carrying a game. He should be a staple in each and every Harlequin army. So I don't think there's a bunch of changes. We don't have to make a ton of changes to troops or anything like that. We just have to make sure that the detachment benefits them pretty greatly. So we don't want Harlequins to be so broken and so OP where they all have 2 damage weapons like in last edition, with Harlequin's Kiss and Caress and everything else, where they're fielded over traditional Aeldari units. GW's not going to do that. They're reworking the entire line. So they want to sell models, but how can we get Harlequins useful without affecting anywhere else? It pretty much just comes down to the detachment rule. And we've seen this quite a few times throughout 10th edition on how GW may address this. So we saw it in Sons of Sanguinius. These units get, +2 strength on the charge. There are a few great stratagems that they can utilize. Primaris Sword Brethren right now end up giving +1 damage or attack to anyone in their unit. If the Troupe Master had an ability like this, that would be pretty dang incredible. Custodes right now have the ability to punch up wherever they want to go through use of Martial Kata. They can get lethal hits or sustained. CSM has their dark packs where they can get lethal or sustained and increase their damage. Drukhari in the Sky Splinter Assault gets bonuses when getting out of the transport, that extra AP, and Lance. And then Death Guard themselves just put out that aura that instead of making themselves better, they make everyone else worse. We can really realistically see this happen for Harlequins in some way, shape, or form. It might not be exactly one of these things, but if we look around the game right now, we can see where GW could go to make this a reality for us. They have the opportunity to make Harlequins decent without making them overpowered as allies in Ynnari or Drukhari or in our Craft World counterparts as well. It's just going to come down to that detachment itself. So I think enhancements have the ability to play a huge role in what we do in our combat effectiveness. I'm not entirely sure what they would do, but just kind of looking at some other codexes and, army rules and enhancements, we can kind of see a little bit of the direction they want to go in, knowing that the Death Jester needs something like Fate's Messenger to do really well. I can anticipate something like that would be available. Extra damage may be something for the Troupe Master, like they had in ninth. If you just had like a bullet of a Troupe Master who was able to go in and, crush something with damage 3 attacks, something like that. Maybe an ability to confer Lone Op. Maybe it's something you could give the Shadowseer, which would kind of facilitate her ability already, but instead of stealth, it's just they can't be targeted at all, which would be really, really nice. Or, there could be an enhancement, something like Veil of Darkness, that allows us to pick up a unit, put it back in the webway, and then deep strike somewhere on the board the turn after. These are definitely things that I can see happening. We're not going to have things like, I don't believe, Weeping Stones or Reader of the Ruins. I don't know if we're going to have Fate's Messenger. It'd be cool if they just brought that back for Harlequins and named it something else. But we definitely have an ability, and we have enough lore to be able to confer a whole bunch of different things afterwards. But I'm excited to hear what you all think in the comments. As far as the stratagems go, I mean, the sky is the limit. I think this will end up being, this and the detachment rule, the most impactful for us down the line. So anything that can confer us reroll hits and or wounds at any point, even if there's a caveat to it, would be fantastic, especially if we still are going to be able to give out devastating wounds with something like a Troupe Master. It just eliminates the need for us to take a Falcon, and we could just kind of keep pushing forward. Impact Mortals would be nice. Harlequins are known for throwing grenades, even if there is just like a stratagem that replaces grenades themselves. So we have an ability to throw 2 of them in a turn, or maybe it's a character ability. I could definitely see that where you're able to use grenades for free, even if it was already used somewhere else. Maybe a fight on death stratagem, like the Dark Harlequins last edition. So maybe they fight on death on a 4+. Something to confer fights first would be awesome. If they were standing on an objective or something like that, they get fights first. -1 to hit or wound, something like lightning fast reactions would be great. Or fortune to confer to some of these. An advance in charge roll would of course be incredible. That's what most of our army was based on in the last edition. Something like a 6-inch consolidate could do well. Maybe +1 damage to a specific unit, even if it was 2 CP. All Harlequin special weapons get +1 damage on the charge. Would be absolutely incredible. That would be the like chef's kiss stratagem for this army. I can definitely see us getting a reactive move, or maybe something like extra AP, or something like ignores modifiers. There are a ton of different stratagems that we can get. We have seen each and every one of these throughout the game right now, and I don't see us getting every single one of these, right? I don't see them all being dedicated towards fighting or not, but if maybe we get 1 or 2 dedicated to damage and a couple others dedicated to, defense or survivability, and then 1, dedicated to maneuverability or whatever it may be, that seems pretty fitting. So whatever combination of these, I'm perfectly fine as long as we get some form of extra damage and ability to kind of defend or deflect afterwards. But overall, I just want the detachment to allow us to kind of stand alone and be relatively competitive. I don't need us to be the absolute best faction out there. Some things that I'm kind of pessimistic about what's going to happen, but if we walked out of it with these few things, I would be super happy. Some access to damage to weapons, something to balance the loss of unparalleled foresight, maybe a points decrease on the Skyweavers and the Voidweavers, something to confer an ability to punch up into harder targets, even if it's something that needs to be used more selectively. Something like a stratagem, again, that just gives us extra damage or extra, mortals, whatever it may be. I don't really mind if they have very specific caveats to them. If they need to be done in certain times or certain situations, we can formulate a game plan around that. We're not asking for everything. I'm not asking for any of these data sheets to be dramatically changed, just a little bit of the ability to fill the gaps that we are missing in the current index. But overall, we have no idea what's coming for us. And it's fun to put our tinfoil hats on and really kind of see and predict, maybe speculate a little of what's to come. So join the Discord. I can't wait to hear everyone's thoughts in the comment section. I am super excited for some of the new changes. We know some things are going to have to change. I do not believe they're going to rework every data sheet, but we know that some of them have to. I am kind of disappointed if it isn't the detachment that comes out in December because, oh my gosh, what am I going to do for the next few months, not knowing what we're going to get into? I know that GW said they're going to release a detachment for each and every army in December, so I'm hoping that over the next couple weeks we can get a few games in with that detachment, whether it's Harlequins or Aeldari or whatever it may be, to really kind of work through that until we get a new index with Harlequins afterwards. But right now it's so up in the air. It's fun to think about. It's a little sad to kind of imagine having to change up everything over the course of a single day, but it'll be fun. Stick with me. If you guys want to see some different gameplay, maybe from more traditional Aeldari styles, you want to see some Phoenix Lords on the table, I'd be more than happy to get those games out and ready to post. But thanks again. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. Any little bit helps more than you could possibly imagine. I know this video is a little rushed, but we're excited and we're going to get it out there. Thanks again.